you freaks, geeks, and cinemaniacs. From the heart of Hollyweird, California, at the epicenter of all things eerie and awesome, it's time for Charles Band's Full Moon Freak Show.
This week's guest's most famous contribution to culture might be his portrayal of Norm, the sardonic barfly in the hit sitcom Cheers. But there's much more to George Wendt than meets the beer stein. As an actor, he has worked with talent Michael Keaton, Ron Howard in the film Gung Ho, Chevy Chase in the comedy classic FLETCH, Robert De Niro in the McCarthy-era drama Guilty by Suspicion, and many, many more. But for us freakos, George will forever be beloved for his comical turn in the 1986 Chiller House, the Dennis Quaid thriller Dreamscape, the John Landis Masters of Horror episode Family, and of course his work with Full Moon's own Stuart Gordon. George Wendt, welcome to the Freak Show.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't mess any of that up.
No,
more or less. So jumping right into it, because I go back with Stuart to Re-Animator.
Yeah.
I had a company in the 80s, and through this connection, and my dad became very friendly with him. Stuart appeared, having not made a movie. He was, doing the organic theater in Chicago, and obviously very, very talented. And he brought in this project, and before you know it, we were making Re-Animator, and then we began a relationship with movies like Pit and the Pendulum, and From Beyond, and Castle Freak, which I proudly wear at this convention.
Great.
But how did you meet Stuart? How did that all begin?
I was a young theater student, improv student in the workshops at Second City in 1973.
Wow. Okay.
And our teacher, Josephine Forsberg, said, you guys should go see these shows at Organic Theater.
Oh, okay.
And so I did, and I was knocked out and in awe and, really green. I wasn't like, hey, Stuart, how you doing? I'm this guy from, I just was a patron, a customer.
Sure.
And then after, sort of kind of, bumping into each other now and then, Second City, as you know, it's a satire, and we like to, instead of just getting, like obvious targets, we thought we'd attack our own.
Right.
So we thought we'd do a parody of the Organic Theater Company.
Okay.
And we thought they were in the way of adapting classics and things they didn't have to pay for.
Right.
So they would devise a show around Beowulf or Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn or something like that. And so we did the Three Little Pigs, the Organic Theater version of Three Little Pigs.
Oh, how clever is that?
And then I suggested, to our director, Del Close, that we should see if Stuart wants to come in and guest direct this piece.
Wow.
And so he did.
To guest direct the spoof.
Guest directed a spoof
parody
of his own company, yeah.
Oh, my, I didn't know that story at all.
And we had, like gratuitous pig nudity and, with like all the, 8 tits. And,
of course.
and entrails everywhere and blood. And, just.
Wow. And that was the 70s.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What a career Stuart's had, and what a a lot of people met him at these shows because he would do some of these conventions, and of course, he left us way too early. But for people who don't know Stuart, I mean, you would never imagine this kind, sweet human being. Made all these fucking bizarro, twisted.
But I've seen his other side as well.
Okay.
Yeah. We were shooting King of the Ants.
Right.
And it was a sunny day in Santa Barbara, in the Santa Barbara Zoo.
Okay.
And it was, my mom was a redhead, and I burned terribly.
Sure.
And so it was already I was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, Jesus, I'm getting cooked. I wonder if anybody has any sunblock. Yeah, they do over at the makeup table. And so I go, I'll be, and off I go. and I'm getting makeup person's putting sunblock all over me, and Stuart's ready to shoot. He goes, "Where the hell's George? What?" And it's like, oh, he's at the makeup. What do you? Arms over the. Get in here. We need you. What? I'm sorry. I'm getting sunblock. He goes, "I had no idea you were such a fucking pussy."
What? Well, okay. So we made, I don't know, half a dozen movies together, close friends. I would go over to his house with his kids, my kids. I mean, that close. I never saw that.
Oh.
I did see, as the director on these movies I made, sometimes he got really bullish as far as wanting to get stuff done.
Oh, yeah.
He was just like,
He's a picture of a bulldog,
yeah,
really.
Yeah, but I didn't quite see that. But he generally was, especially away from a movie set, just such a sweet guy. You just never think,
God.
the
Totally,
nicest.
yeah. Like, I was really surprised when he, flipped on me. But, it's,
Well, I'm sure you reminded him of that later. Like, Stuart, you totally flipped on me, dick.
Yeah, he had his game face on, He was running, against, like all movie producers and directors.
I get that.
Looking at the clock.
But, so I didn't realize you guys, the great thing about me being able to talk to people like you who have had such success is I actually know very little. There are things that I want to know, and of course I know a lot of your work. But I'm assuming you've been married, right? You are married.
I am married.
Children?
Yeah, we have 5 kids. Yeah.
You have 5 kids?
Well, I walked into 2. Okay. My wife had 2 kids.
I'm going to use that. I walked into 2. That's hilarious.
My wife had 2 kids from her previous marriage.
Sure.
But we've been together 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
good
crazy.
for you. Now, any of your kids actors?
No.
Not one? Not one
Not
little
yet,
actor
anyway.
in the
No,
group? Not yet?
no.
Wow. It must be so interesting because you've had such success, especially on TV and all that stuff. You would think some of those kids would go, "I want to just be like that." It's such an alluring, intoxicating thing if you're observing it from afar, and you're their dad, but nothing, huh? Nothing in the arts, musicians.
Oh,
right?
yeah, no. 3 of the 5 are musicians.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
so.
Okay.
I'm going to have to work forever.
You can. There's no question. No
and,
question about it.
A daughter who's an artist as well.
Oh, good.
She's in apparel design.
All right. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow, 5. That's a lot of children.
Yeah.
You will have to work forever. There's no question. There's no ending that. But all right, so back to Stuart. Fantastic I didn't realize the organic theater connection. But what about space truckers? Because
so much fun.
my relationship with Stuart is we made these movies together early on, and the way I've always done it is I'll create a poster, like a piece of art. This is before we even make the movie.
Yeah.
And Corman did this too. I didn't invent this. Because for me in my direct-to-video back then and now the streaming world, if you can't grab people with that art and a title, you kind of lose them. They don't get in the door, right? Now, it was great back in the old days with Blockbuster and Hollywood. You'd have your movies on the shelf as an independent. You'd have your movie, like one of my horror movies, next to a big horror movie like Aliens and Terminator. Then you would see Puppet Master. Those days are gone. There's no more even playing field. All that is, a memory. Now we're into this digital world. But it always started with me with a poster and something that I can, make sure people would enjoy. So Stuart would come over. In the first few movies, he brought the projects in. They weren't even his. It was Lovecraft. So it was Re-Animator and From Beyond. And then I said, Stuart, I want to make this movie. In between, why don't we make a movie called Dolls? And I had this creepy poster of this doll, and it was called Dolls. And he shot that. And it's actually, I think, one of his absolutely better movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dolls. Fun. So we shot that. He's always talking about you because we shot these in Italy. I had a studio briefly in Italy, the ex-Dino De Laurentiis studios. That's where we made From Beyond and Dolls. So it was, for a brief period of time in my career, a very heady experience to have a studio. Of course, I lost it because things come and go, and then you run out of money, and then whatever. But then I came to him with a poster, and I said, Stuart, let's make a movie called Castle Freak. And he goes, what's that? I said, and I had this character kind of drawn out with Castle Freak. Yeah. And he loved it. He says, okay, where are we going to make it? I said, well, I own a castle, which I don't own anymore because I lost that. But let's go make it at the castle. So we all there. And, of course, he put Carol in every movie.
Of course, yeah. Why not? Yeah.
Poor thing. She's always like anyway, she's in the movie, and Stuart's directing it, and we're literally living in this castle and shooting in the castle. It's great. But every so often he'd go, Charlie, I've got a great project. It's called Space Truckers. I go, yeah. He did what I do. He said, here's the idea. I said, well, can we make it for a price? He says, yeah, $4 or $5 million. That's not my budget. I'm, smaller budget. But he said he had a lot of fun with you on that movie.
Oh, my God, yes.
So it's some story, some random story.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the artwork looked like for Space Truckers, but, square pigs for a square meal is the thing that sticks with me.
Yeah.
He just said, hey, you want to, go to Ireland? And it was, Lonnie Smith was on board and Mike Haggard, a bunch of Chicago cronies were on board. Mm-hmm. And so it was really fun. And Dennis Hopper and Stephen
that's
Dorff.
Right. Oh, my God. What a cast.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your character, because you always have this.
I was just the sort of one of the bad guys. But, I did have one of the greatest exits in motion picture history.
Let's hear it.
We're on a spaceship, and there's a brawl, and somebody shoots the window out accidentally, and you know how it went. Right. If you're in an airplane, so the window goes. Right. It's just a little porthole, like this big, maybe, and it gets shattered and blown away, and everything starts flying out the thing, right? Mm-hmm. The entire set was just like, and me too, and I was like this, and then it stopped. Oh no, my ass gets stuck in it, right, in the porthole, and then it's like everything stopped because my ass was plugging it,
of course,
plugging it up, and then we kind of look around and we go, Are we cool? And I start laughing. And then all of a sudden, and apparently my innards were going out into space.
So Stuart.
And then me slowly sucked, with my innards all gone, sucked through a porthole like this big. And
I'm going to have to look at this movie again. I'll admit, I remember seeing it. I think I was with Stuart. It was one of those late nights. Maybe, I don't remember. We were watching it. Maybe it was a video or something. Yeah. And I probably had a little too much to drink because I don't remember how it ended. Yeah. But I'm going to go watch that scene. Because
but that was my thing. Was not even in the ending. It was even in the middle.
Well, then I really must have.
Yeah. But
okay, so that's a great exit. There's no question. Yeah. That was it. Finally, boop. That was it. Right?
Oh, I was gone. Yeah, I was out. Yeah.
So
I think I even did he asked me to do like a Goofy, if Goofy's falling off a cliff.
Oh yeah.
Out into space.
So much fun. So now excuse my time frame sort of ignorance. Right. Was that before Cheers? Or was Cheers?
No, it was after.
It was after.
Or, in the middle somewhere.
Oh, somewhere in that.
Yeah, probably.
Now, that's a different world because I can talk about low budget and movies and all this history, but, you must have really enjoyed the fact that you're on a big hit show. That must have been great.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. It was, talk about luck. Wow. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not just luck. You're the right guy at the right time. You're charming as hell.
Well, thank you.
Seriously. And something that golden, this wasn't an overnight. This is like years, right? So what do you just drive up every day,
11 years, yeah. And, it's really the best, smartest comedy writers in town.
Really?
It was, we had the murderer's row of everybody who had an overall deal at Paramount.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they would come in one day a week, kind of like, one day we'd have David Lloyd, one day we'd have,
doesn't matter.
Gary Marshall and
oh, really?
No, his partner. Jerry Belson. Sorry.
Oh, right.
And Levine and Isaacs, and of course our own writers, Glenn Charles and Les Charles.
Oh my God. Did you ever direct any of those episodes?
I directed one.
I seem to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of I was lost. It was a fill-in. Jim Burrows directed almost all of
Really?
275.
Wow.
I know. He directed at least 250 of them, at least. And I did one because he got ill. He had pneumonia one week.
Did you enjoy that or that?
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed working with the actors, but I was lost with the cameras.
Yeah, but if you have a good DP, they can tell you.
I know, yeah. Oh, they did. They told me. Right. Actually, the operators were even like, I'd go, and I'd say, I think we need to, and he goes like this. Oh, yeah, and he was already
one
on
of those
the shot.
Guys. That's hilarious. Well, it's my theory, whatever. It's just what I believe, but here's a good example with Stuart. So Stuart had this incredible training in Chicago at the Organic Theater. He knew actors. He knew stories. That's all that mattered. When he came on board, he was with a young producer at the time, a guy named Brian Usna, who's here right now. Brian is here. And they befriended my father, who it was great to have a dad who was in the business. So, I had a lot of good advice. Anyway, my dad first met with Stuart and with Brian, and he said, they're making a movie called Re-Animator. And usually that's not what we were doing. I was coming up with ideas and posters and concepts like Ghoulies and all these crazy movies. But this was a Lovecraft piece. And my dad and I talked, and he said, the only risky part is that Stuart, who's amazing, has never directed a movie. He was nervous about what to tell the cameraman and this, that, and the other. Long story short, he wound up with a guy who I had made 20 movies with, who was a cameraman, Swedish cameraman, fantastic. Mac Alberg.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I keep forgetting how tied in we are with this history. And Mac was fantastic. And Mac, I can't do his, he's had such a great Charles. He says, don't worry. I handled Stuart. So, of course, they had a great collaboration. But within a few days, Stuart got his sea legs. And then he started saying, Mac, what you suggest is good, but can we do this and go that? Then he started making Mac crazy. And then Mac came by and says, Charles, you have to tell Stuart to be a little more calm with his ideas. But here's an example of someone who made a freaking awesome movie, had never been on a movie set, and trusted a DP who was wonderful, brought his talent in, and we made a movie that people are still today walking around with a shirt. And
I know. And then subsequently I did a musical version of Re-Animator.
Oh, you did. I remember that. But I never. Was that in New York? No.
Well, L.A., New York, Edinburgh. I think we had it.
Wow.
We did a couple weeks in Vegas.
Wow. I didn't realize that Stuart traveled with all that.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, he was there with bells on, every night, every show. We got notes every show.
Really?
This boy who played Herbert West, Graham Skipper, he said he'll never forget that Stuart, on our final performance after 5 years, we ran that show for 5 years, and he goes, Graham, I want you to try something. And Stuart, this is our last show. And he goes,
it's our last
and Stuart
show.
goes, yeah, it's our last chance to get it right.
Oh, Stuart. Yeah. Oh, my God. But that was his bulldog personality. I mean, he it was, and I was also lucky that my dad, who, made movies. I mean, I grew up on a movie set. So I was, in Italy, and we were making spaghetti westerns, and he put me in front of the camera. I played the son of Steve Reeves.
Wow.
Hercules. I hated it. I hated being in front of the camera. I just wanted to be like those guys in the back, right? So whatever. But we were, I had all that training, and when, my dad got older, he called it reverse nepotism. I hired him, even though he worked with us and my company, and he was the veteran. He was the guy who, when I had a more ambitious project, because we were making a lot of movies back in the 80s and early 90s, when the project was more ambitious and I had a director that, I hadn't worked with before, I'd say, Dad, can you line produce this show? So he became very close with Stuart. They really bonded, and then we would have dinners at Stuart's house, and it was just a real sweet thing. But my dad knew how to handle Stuart, because unlike producers today, they've never made a movie. They're money. They don't understand the art form. My dad was a very talented director, writer, worked with John Huston on many movies. So my dad had all that background. So when Stuart went off on one of his bulldog tangents, my dad was able to say, "Look, Stuart, you've already got the scene pretty well covered. Instead of this shot that may take 3 more, do this." And so they were able to work together, and they had that great rapport together. So
that's good.
I was lucky. Are you first generation actor in your family, or did you have parents who?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So what were what were their professions? What did they do?
My dad was. My mom was just basically a housewife,
right.
but there were 7 of us, so
there was,
she was,
yeah.
yeah.
Can you imagine today 7?
Yeah.
I don't even know how people do that. 7, and I grew up in Italy, where most of my friends were from family of 10.
Oh, Bernadette, my wife is one of 10.
How does that even work in reality? 10 kids.
Doesn't work.
Because back then, the Pope, if you were Catholic, was like, procreate, the more children.
I know.
And the father, not only most of them Catholic, wanted to do right by the church, but they also figured, well, when I get older, my kids will take care of me, which, at least in this country, isn't happening too often. The kids are
Probably
like,
not, no.
So, but 10, okay, so 7, year 1 of 7.
Yeah. Yeah, and my dad was like a businessman. It's vague because he started in real estate and wound up just being looking after his portfolio, if you will. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So the money was not money. You guys were comfortable-ish.
We were country clubby and whatnot. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. How did that work? Tell me. So you're because I love to get into stuff no one talks about. So you're a young guy. Yeah. You're country clubby.
Well, I was sort of rejecting it, because I was like, I wasn't a hippie, but
right.
I just thought it was, it wasn't for me. Like golf wasn't for me anyway.
Right.
So.
I'm the same. Hippie.
Yeah.
Well, my folks, my dad was an artist, so I was all into that.
Yeah.
But most of my friends had parents who were like real estate or they're ex-military, and it was a whole different world.
Yeah.
You couldn't confide back in the '60s to your dad with much, unless your dad was in the know or was an artist.
Yeah, and so my dad was also military.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he was a naval reservist.
Okay.
He loved it. He was in the war, World War II, and then afterwards he never left. Except for, he wasn't active duty.
Right.
He did active duty several times a year.
Wow.
Yeah, he did it for like 30 years.
Amazing.
Naval Reserve. Yeah.
Amazing. And where was this? What part of the country?
Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Yeah. Okay, so you're born in Chicago.
Yeah, born and raised, yeah.
It's I love Chicago. I've been there twice. Well, I've been more than twice, but I was there professionally for something. I just hit one of those days when it was fucking cold and the wind was like insane. It was like, I'm not used to it. I'm California. I grew up in Rome, but it can definitely get bitter cold in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my God.
You don't even believe.
Yeah.
I actually told a friend I was there, I said, this place is uninhabitable. How do you?
I don't understand it. I asked my dad once, and he said, money. People live here because they have good jobs here. Or something.
That's good. No, it's cool in so many ways. But yeah, I do remember that. So, okay, I'm going to ask you to something like bizarre. Okay, you ready? Okay, you're a young kid. Okay, you're in this privileged environment. Right? Your father was doing well enough. You had these kids. You're whatever. So what was your first crush? Like some chick just made you crazy as a young kid? Because everyone's got that. There's got to be some girl that, as a young boy, 11, 12, 13, you freaked out over.
Yeah, it wasn't like Farrah Fawcett or anything, although, she's a doll,
No, but a real human. I'm saying, a real.
Yeah, okay, well, one who saved me from the priesthood.
I want to hear this story.
Okay, yeah. So it was Irish Catholic, Wendt is a German surname, but, I'm 3/4 Irish. And,
me too. My mother, Richardson, is my mom's maiden name.
Cool, yeah. Actually, a friend of mine said, where are you people from in the old country? And I said, oh, geez, there wasn't much talk about the old country.
Right.
All 4 of my grandparents were born in Chicago. And he goes, County Cook.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, but where was I?
Hot chick, the girl.
Oh, yeah. So, of course, like all Catholic schoolboys, it's around 7th grade or something, and I'm going, I wonder if I have a vocation, And then... so I thought about going to the seminary or something.
Really?
And then I had my very first erotic dream, and it was Susie Whalen, a classmate of mine.
That's actually her name.
Yeah.
Susie Whalen. And
Susie
you had an
Whalen.
erotic dream, and she starred in your erotic dream?
Yes. And
I want to hear more about that.
No, well, it didn't really go anywhere other than, like, when I woke up, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a priest. I'm not,
I love it.
I'm not going to, girl. Yeah. Girls,
Okay, wait. But did you date Susie? Did you?
No.
Why? Too young.
Yeah. I was it was just a twinge of an inkling of
being a human being, right?
Yeah, just like all of a sudden testosterone kicked in.
Yeah, it was like Boner City is what it was. I mean, I'm just being silly, but all right. So did Susie Whalen ever know you had a?
I don't think
crush
so. No,
nothing really. You
so
didn't even
if you're still alive,
she's around. She's watching,
Susie,
right?
Yeah.
Susie, come on, drop us a line. Send that. Okay, so all right. So Susie Whalen was a sort of a mirage, but what about? There must have been the first girl that you finally had the courage to kiss as a young man. And as a good Catholic boy who...
Yeah.
Susie saved you from the priesthood. That's a good beginning.
Yeah. What do you mean, my first girlfriend or something?
Or the first girl that you kissed, the first girl that you...
Yeah.
There must have been some...
Another Susie, but anyway.
What, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Do you remember her last name?
Yeah, Cooper.
Susie Cooper. Please make yourself known. Yeah. So that was the first, like...
Yeah, we dated one summer. See, I went away. Not only country club, also prep school.
Oh, so, no way!
Yeah, I went to boarding.
You had the whole works: country club,
for,
Catholic boy, prep school. Just missed the clergy.
Yeah. So I was only home for summers.
Right. Wow! What was that like?
It was awful.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I was 13 and like in a boarding school with 600 boys and weird. And so I had a summer thing with Susie Cooper between I think junior and senior year.
So was the summer? Oh, you were home then. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, my closest friend, Catholic. I have so many stories I've heard over the years about, and he went to Notre Dame in Rome.
Oh,
all boys, all.
I went to Notre Dame
priests.
University.
And then, of course, there was a school called Marymount, and that was an all-girls school.
In Rome?
In Rome.
Wow.
Yeah, both. And I went to a school called the Overseas School of Rome, which was co-ed, which was amazing but Steve, my good friend, that's all they can think about. They were just girls and getting out and the same thing with Marymount. Those little poor chicks, they're in all they can think about are boys. It's a very bizarre, time of your life, especially when things are popping, right?
All four of my sisters went to Loyola in Rome.
Oh, Loyola in Rome? Really?
Junior year abroad.
No,
sort of thing.
I know people from probably that exact era.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was cool. And then
why Rome? Why did your parents send them?
Because I don't know. My older sister did it, and then
they followed.
They all followed. Did the same thing.
What a great experience they had.
It was, and I got to experience it a little bit because I was at the time. Later, I was sort of bumming around in Europe, and
this is the '60s, I imagine.
Early '70s,
early
72, right before I started at Second City, and I had a check coming. This friend of mine and I went in on a car, and we bought. It was a Volkswagen van, of course.
That was it. That's all you needed.
And we had a rebate check coming from Volkswagen because we picked it up in Hanover, and it was like $600 or something. So we were in North Africa, and
wow, you went some crazy.
Oh yeah, we went everywhere. But so we go. We're out of money. We took the ferry from Tunis to Palermo,
right,
and then drove up to Rome. Not a penny left because we had a check waiting for us, which I had mailed to my sister at Loyola of Rome.
So you pulled up to Loyola.
We pull up
to your
and there was nothing, no check, and it was like, hey. So we had to stay there for like 6 weeks at Loyola of Rome. I was sleeping on the balcony of my sister's boyfriend's dorm room.
Oh, my God.
And,
but come on, it must have been some great weeks in a way.
Oh, it was great.
Rome
I could have run for student council.
That's right.
It was like they thought, hey, I was walking down, up and down the stairwells and the corridors.
Oh,
and the
what
school.
a great experience. Look, obviously I'm super partial to Rome. I grew up in Rome. It's my first language. So if you speak any Italian, facciamo una bella parlatinita. No, I won't do that. But Rome at that time, I was there. I left in 71. My family came back to the States, but I was there for 15 years. And then I came back and forth a lot. But the mid to late 60s, early 70s in Rome was just magic.
Yeah.
I mean, just magic. And if you're how to say it politely, if you're I'm not sure how to say it, but if you're a horny dude, okay, and you want to like hook up with a chick or meet women, I mean, you were the dude. You were like young guy. You were in Loyola. It's all girls.
You know what was weird? The most beautiful woman I ever saw in my life.
Uh-huh.
I was walking down the road and I was just like, the thunderbolt.
Let's
me.
talk more about that.
And,
was she an Italian girl or one of the?
Hang on, I started to chat her up, and it's like, go away. I am not woman. I am, like that kind of thing. I was like, wow.
What?
Well done. It was a tranny. It was a cross-dresser or something.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And
what did she say? Do that again. What did she say?
Something like, she realized that I was like a drunk,
right.
Penniless.
Right.
I wasn't the guy she was looking for. And she also knew that I thought she was a girl.
Right.
And so she was walking the streets, she was a pro.
I understand.
Yeah. And,
sad story.
Yeah. And she told me to basically fuck off, not rudely.
Right.
But just gave
away.
me the hard truth.
I'm hard truth.
I'm
or
a
not
man.
the hard truth. But
Yeah.
okay. So that's actually a really
but
good story.
I was just like, it was truly
next
something.
time you tell the story, I would say you should say one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well, to that
to protect
point.
the innocent.
Yeah.
No, I know that's the point. Wow. But then again, if you were there 6 weeks, you must have had some romance in those 6 weeks. You were surrounded.
Oh, no.
No?
I'm the only guy who never got laid the entire time. When we were meeting so many fun people.
Right.
Everywhere. We'd run into the same people, like in, France and Spain and Morocco, and
that was an era. That'll never happen again. There was an innocence in that era. So It was the very end of that. Then drugs, things changed, and Europe caught up with America a little bit, but that's life. But there was a time in the 50s, La Dolce Vita, and the 60s, early 70s, where you could get in the VW van and or get on a Eurail pass, get on a train, and have the most amazing time, meet people who are in that.
Fellow
travelers, and people were very generous. They'd give you whatever you needed if you needed
we were
something.
camping and, sleeping anywhere, really, on the side of the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you actually hung out essentially with the the Loyola crowd.
Well, for that, when I was there, yeah.
But that's weeks.
Yeah.
And no weeks. Fucking, nothing.
No.
That's
Besides, they were my sister's friends. And
yeah, but the school had hundreds of girls.
Not that many. It was, it was only probably maybe
there's a good 200-300.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the age of innocence, and it's hard to say. But boy, that's a great experience. So you must look back and think, I'm glad I didn't get the check because you had an adventure that you just can't.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was just complete eye opener, and it really. It's how I wound up at Second City and realized what I wanted to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the reason I went to Europe was after I finished college, and it was just like I couldn't think of anything I wanted to do.
Really?
And I also didn't want to do a job that I knew I would hate.
Good for you. Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what wouldn't I hate? And anyway, so this friend of mine said, he called, and I said, oh, man, my parents are bugging me. I was living at home, right? what are you going to do? When are you going to get a job? When are you going to...
believe me.
I said, man, he goes, you don't know what you want to do? And I go, absolutely no idea. And he said, well, I know what to do. What? You go to Europe. I go, what do you mean? Yeah, well, it's $165 Icelandic to Luxembourg City from and round trip. You know, buy a backpack and save up some money if you can, and off you go. And I was like, you can do that?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. So I did it. I can't believe I did it.
But it's great you did that.
Yeah.
It's great you did that. I know a lot of friends who essentially did the same thing. And that's how weird the world was. Today, I think it's changing a bit, maybe in some
Oh, no, you got to stay in hotels now and whatnot.
No, but you can't do what you did. But I'm just saying, back then, if you weren't going to college, most parents would think you were just they would force you. College was like, if you could afford it, you had to get your kid to college.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids went to college having no frickin' idea, and they spent 4 more years being educated. Yeah. And then they got out of college and like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. And I don't want to, just like you, I don't want to go into something that I'm going to regret. And a lot of kids literally went to Europe. They got a backpack, they got the cheap ticket, and they bummed around, in Europe.
So great.
And it was. You can't.
And I met half of them. It was great. And they not just that, Aussies, Canadians, Brits. All over the world.
I was lucky in that the school I went to, again, yes, I forgot there was Loyola, Marymount, all girls, Notre Dame, all boys. St. George's also, I believe, was all boys. And then there was Overseas School of Rome. And Overseas School of Rome was an English school, but it was all genders, all nationalities. So you had people from, the Sons and Daughters of the Military, FAO, the food organization, people from Africa, people from the States. So I grew up literally in a multicolored, multilingual, multi-ethnic, multi-everything. That was my whole upbringing at the school, which was great. That's how I felt comfortable. And even to this day, when I go somewhere and there's only white people or just black people, when I go to a place that looks not like what I'm used to, we're all that way, I get uncomfortable. So, well, that's not the world. The world is full of amazing people, and sweet people and people from 1,000 different backgrounds. So I was lucky that I had a kind of a taste of the Europe you had a taste with. But I actually lived there. I went to school there, and I went to that kind of school. And all the time there were people older than me, because I was still in high school, coming over like you, just graduating college, no idea what the fuck to do. Yeah. And then many of them were inspired. They went home and began a career.
Yep.
Which is what happened. Look what happened to you.
Yeah.
Then you had a hit show, and now you're like 700 kids. And
I know. My nephew, Jason Sudeikis, he was on Conan or Letterman or something. Did your Uncle George give you any advice? And he's funny as hell. And he goes, yeah, he told me, just get on one of the best shows of all time and take it from there. And then he goes, so I did.
Oh, that's great.
SNL,
That's an awesome way to end it.
Thanks,
dude,
man.
We'll talk again. We share a love for Stuart, who was such a sweet, wonderful man. And, he'll be proud if he's checking things out, because when you go to these shows, every other shirt is one of his movies, You got all these films that he made and you made and I made with him. And, that's all you can look at is what you're leaving, And look at all your stuff, all the cool movies you made, and Cheers. And, I mean, that's... who knew? You were that kid in Italy, you couldn't even get laid, and now you're like...
hard to believe.
But you're right about your artist children. So just keep working, okay?
Yeah, oh boy.
I'm not so dissimilar, but anyway, really great again, George.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
You got it.
And cut.